Hey everyone, and welcome back to Becoming Ultimate Masters.
It's great to be here.
I'm so excited about today's deep dive. We're going to be exploring a book that can be a real game changer, especially for you high school students and young adults listening.
Yeah.
We're going to be taking a look at Power versus Force by Dr. David R. Hawkins.
You know what's really cool about this book is that it dives into this idea that our thoughts and emotions
Oh, yeah.
actually have a measurable energy level.
Okay, wait, measurable.
And that these levels can actually influence our health, our success,
Right.
and even the world around us.
Okay, hold on. Measurable energy. I mean, it's
Yeah.
not like we can see our thoughts floating around with little voltmeters attached to them.
Right. But Hawkins, through his research using kinesiology,
Okay.
that's the study of body movement,
Right.
found something amazing.
Okay.
He discovered that the human body actually responds differently to truth and falsehood.
Huh.
It weakens in the presence of lies and strengthens when exposed to truth.
So you're telling me our bodies can actually sense whether something is true or not? That's pretty wild.
It is. And this discovery led him to develop a scale that calibrates the energy level of different emotions, thoughts, and even historical figures.
A scale. So how does this thing work? Like, how do you measure the energy of a thought?
Well, he used muscle testing,
Okay.
and he found that certain thoughts consistently caused people's muscles to weaken,
Interesting.
while others made them stronger.
Hmm.
For example, just holding the image of Mother Teresa in mind made people test strong,
Really?
while thinking of Adolf Hitler had the opposite effect.
Wow. That's fascinating.
Yeah,
So there's a real measurable difference in the energy of those thoughts.
exactly. And this isn't just limited to thoughts about people.
Okay.
He even found that artificial sweeteners made everyone test weak,
Really?
even if they didn't know they were consuming them.
Okay, now that's where it gets really interesting.
Yeah.
But how can we be sure this scale is accurate?
That's a great question, and Hawkins addressed that directly. You see, the book itself calibrates at a very high level of truth on his own scale,
Okay.
which suggests
Okay.
it has a level of reliability beyond what you'd find in everyday thinking.
Okay, so this isn't just some random opinion.
Right.
There's a method behind it.
Exactly.
So where do our emotions fit into all of this? I mean, we all feel happy, sad, angry, everything in between.
That's where the map of consciousness comes in.
Right.
This is a central concept in Power versus Force.
Okay.
And it basically shows this hierarchy of different energy levels
Got it.
that are associated with various emotions and attitudes.
So it's like a roadmap for understanding the kind of energy we're putting out into the world
Exactly.
and the energy that we're attracting back to us.
Exactly. And understanding this map can be incredibly helpful, especially for young people who are still figuring things out.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I can see how knowing about these energy levels could be super useful for navigating the ups and downs of life,
Right.
but maps can be confusing. Can you give us some examples, especially of energy levels that we as young people might be dealing with?
Of course. Let's start with some of the lower energy levels.
Okay.
Hawkins found that shame calibrates at 20
Oh, wow.
and guilt at 30. Now, these are emotions that a lot of young people struggle with.
Yeah.
And they can really hold us back. They can make us feel like we're not good enough
Yeah.
and lead to self-sabotage.
It's like that feeling of constantly doubting yourself and your abilities.
Yes. And then there's apathy, which sits at 50 on the scale.
Uh-huh.
You know, that feeling of being stuck and unmotivated,
Yeah.
where nothing seems to matter?
I've been there.
That's apathy.
Yeah.
The good news is, even though these lower levels can feel heavy,
Yeah.
the map shows that we can move beyond them.
So we're not doomed to stay stuck in those negative emotions forever.
Not at all. As we move up the scale, we encounter fear at a 100.
Okay.
Now, fear is a big one.
Yeah, it is.
It drains our energy and stops us from reaching our full potential. But here's the key. The antidote to fear is courage.
Ah, I like that.
And courage is a real game changer.
Right.
It marks a jump up to 200 on the scale,
Okay.
a point where true power begins to emerge.
So that's what they mean by finding your courage.
Exactly.
It's like stepping into a whole new level of energy and potential.
Exactly. And once we tap into that courage,
Yes.
we can start experiencing even higher energy levels, like acceptance,
Okay.
which is at 350. Acceptance is all about taking responsibility for our lives
Right.
and finding happiness from within
Mm.
rather than looking for it outside ourselves.
That reminds me of this saying, happiness is an inside job.
Precisely. And then, of course, there's love. Now, love calibrates at a powerful 500 on the scale.
Okay.
We often hear about the transformative power of love, and this map confirms it.
Right.
Love allows us to overcome those lower emotions like fear, anger, and even grief.
Yeah.
And it empowers us to create positive change, not just in our own lives, but in the lives of others.
So love really does conquer all.
It does. And according to the map of consciousness, love can eventually lead to peace,
Wow.
a state of transcendence that calibrates at 600.
Really?
It's often described as enlightenment,
Yeah.
a state of deep inner stillness
Right.
and a sense of oneness with everything around you.
Wow, that sounds incredibly peaceful.
It is.
But how can we as young people who are just starting out even begin to reach these higher levels of consciousness? It all seems a bit out of reach right now.
That's where the power of choice comes in. Power versus force emphasizes that we have the power to choose which energy field we want to align with. It's not always easy, but by consciously choosing positive attitudes and actions, we can actually start attracting positive experiences into our lives.
So it's not about just letting life happen to us.
Right.
It's about making conscious choices that align with the energy we want to experience.
Exactly. Think about it like this. If you surround yourself with people who are always complaining and gossiping, their negativity can bring you down. But if you choose to spend time with people who are positive, encouraging, and supportive, their energy can lift you up.
It's like they say, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Exactly.
So we need to be mindful of who we choose to be around.
Absolutely. And this principle applies to everything, not just our social circles.
Right.
The book gives examples of individuals and organizations that achieved incredible things by aligning themselves with these high-energy principles. Take Mahatma Gandhi and his nonviolent movement that led India to independence.
Oh, yeah.
Or the success of Walmart, a company built on the foundation of service and taking care of its customers.
And even something as enduring as the principles laid out in the Declaration of Independence.
Exactly.
Those ideas have inspired people for centuries.
Yes, they are powerful examples of what can happen when we align ourselves with a higher energy.
Right.
But it's not just about grand historical figures or giant corporations.
No.
We can apply these principles to our own lives, no matter how young we are.
That's what I was thinking. It's great to talk about Gandhi,
Yeah.
but how do these concepts actually translate into everyday life for young people?
Right.
I mean, how does this help us deal with things like exams or figuring out what to do after graduation?
Well, it can have a huge impact. It starts with being mindful about who you choose as your friends and role models. Like we just talked about, being around positive people can really elevate your energy.
Yeah.
Which can make a big difference when you're facing challenges.
For sure. It's much easier to stay motivated and focused when you've got a good support system cheering you on.
Yes.
But what about when those inevitable, stressful, and negative situations come up?
Right.
Life isn't always sunshine and rainbows, right?
You're absolutely right. But power versus force highlights some simple techniques that can help us shift our energy quickly.
Okay.
One of them is something called the thymus thump.
Thymus thump.
Yeah.
What is that? Some kind of secret handshake?
Not quite. It's actually a very simple exercise.
Okay.
See your thymus gland, which is located right behind the top of your breastbone,
Okay.
is like the central control panel for your body's energy system. When its energy is low, we tend to feel stressed and overwhelmed.
Okay, so if we thump our thymus, we can boost its energy.
Exactly. You just lightly pound over that area with a clenched fist for a few seconds.
Okay.
While smiling and thinking about someone you love.
Okay, hold on. I'm going to try this right now.
Go for it.
Okay. I'm smiling and thinking about my dog. I actually do feel a bit lighter.
See, it's a quick and easy way to shift your energy when you're feeling stressed.
Okay, I love that.
Yeah.
But besides the thymus thump,
Yeah.
are there other ways young people can use these concepts?
Sure.
Especially when it comes to making big decisions like choosing a college or a career path.
Well, Hawkins suggests that we look at the motive behind our choices.
Okay.
He encourages us to ask ourselves, is this decision coming from a place of power, a desire to create something positive? Or is it being driven by force and need to control or manipulate a situation?
So it's about being honest with ourselves about our true motivations.
Exactly. For instance, if you're thinking about applying to a certain college just because of its prestige or because it's what your parents want, that might be coming from a place of force.
Right.
But if you're choosing a college based on a genuine interest in its programs and a true desire to learn and grow, that's probably coming from a place of power.
That makes so much sense. So it's about figuring out why we're doing things.
Exactly.
Making sure we're coming from the right place.
Right. And this is especially important when it comes to choosing a career path.
Yeah.
Are you pursuing something because you're truly passionate about it or because you think it will make you a lot of money or impress other people?
Oh, yeah.
Finding that sweet spot where your passion and talents align with a sense of purpose,
Right.
that's when things really start to click.
And when you're aligned with that purpose, overcoming fear and self-doubt becomes so much easier.
Absolutely. And that brings us to another really interesting concept in the book. Power versus force actually challenges the traditional idea of cause and effect.
Wait, what? Cause and effect, you mean like if I drop an apple, it falls to the ground? What's so complicated about that?
It seems straightforward.
Yeah.
Right. But Hawkins suggests that what we usually think of as causes are actually effects.
Hold on. You're saying that the cause is actually the effect?
Yeah.
My brain is doing backflips right now.
Yeah, it is a bit mind-bending, I know. But what he's saying is that our experience of life isn't determined by the events themselves,
Right.
but by how we react to them,
Interesting.
by the attitude we choose to adopt.
So it's not what happens to us.
Right.
It's how we choose to respond.
Exactly. Let's say you're applying for a job you really want and you don't get it. Now, at lower levels of consciousness, you might react with disappointment, self-pity, or even anger.
Yeah.
Maybe blaming the interviewer or feeling like you're a failure. But from a higher level of consciousness, you might choose to see it as an opportunity to learn from the experience,
Okay.
to refine your skills, or maybe even consider a different path that's even better suited to your talents.
So it's about shifting our perspective.
Right.
And choosing to focus on the positive even when things don't go our way.
That's it. Hawkins really emphasizes that nothing out there has power over us. It's our inner state, our level of consciousness that shapes how we experience life.
Right.
And that's incredibly empowering.
Yeah.
Because it means we're not victims of our circumstances.
Right.
We always have the power to choose our response.
Okay, I get that.
Yeah.
But what about when we're stuck in a really negative situation, like a toxic work environment or
Yeah.
a dysfunctional family? How can we maintain a positive outlook when it feels like everything around us is dragging us down?
That's where the concept of alignment comes in.
Okay.
Remember those high energy attractor patterns we talked about?
Yes.
Well, those patterns actually have a field of dominance over weaker ones. Think of it like a small magnet being drawn to a larger, more powerful one.
So even if we're in a negative environment, we can still choose to align ourselves with those positive attractors.
Exactly. It takes effort and awareness,
Right.
but it's absolutely possible.
Yeah.
And the more we align ourselves with those higher energy levels, the less affected we'll be by those lower vibrations around us.
It's like learning to surf.
Yeah.
You can't control the waves, but you can learn to ride them.
That's a great analogy. And remember, this isn't about denying or suppressing those negative emotions.
Okay.
It's about acknowledging them, accepting them,
Right.
and then consciously choosing to focus on a more empowering perspective.
So it's not about being happy all the time. It's about developing the inner strength to face life's challenges with resilience and grace.
Exactly. Now, Hawkins also challenges the traditional Newtonian concept of causality, which is based on that linear cause and effect model.
Okay, I remember learning about that in science class. What's wrong with the traditional view of cause and effect? It seems to make sense, right?
It does on the surface, but Hawkins argues that this linear model is too simplistic.
It doesn't account for the complexity and interconnectedness of reality.
So you're saying that things aren't always as straightforward as A leading to B.
Right. He draws on chaos theory or nonlinear dynamics
Okay.
to explain how even the tiniest variations in initial conditions can lead to vastly different outcomes. It's like the butterfly effect,
Right?
where a butterfly flapping its wings in Brazil
Yeah.
can eventually cause a tornado in Texas.
Wow, that's mind-blowing. So even seemingly insignificant actions can have ripple effects that we might not even be aware of.
Precisely. And this really challenges the notion that we're all separate individuals acting in isolation. It suggests that we're all interconnected, part of a larger web of energy.
So it's more about interconnectedness, like we're all part of a larger system.
Yes. And that understanding has huge implications for how we see ourselves and our place in the world.
Right.
If we can grasp the idea that our thoughts and actions are constantly influencing this web of energy.
It can inspire us to make choices that are aligned with those higher levels of consciousness, choices that support life
Right.
and contribute to the well-being of everyone.
It's like that saying, be the change you want to see in the world.
Exactly. And that's a powerful message for young people who are just starting to shape their own destinies.
Right.
If you can understand these principles of power and force, you can consciously choose to align yourself with those higher energy levels. And that can lead to greater happiness, success, and fulfillment in your life.
That's really inspiring.
Yeah.
But honestly, it all sounds a bit abstract.
Sure.
How can we as young people actually identify these high energy attractor patterns?
Yeah.
I mean, we can't see them, can we?
That's a great question. And Hawkins provides a really helpful tool in the book called critical point analysis.
Critical point analysis. Okay. I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
Basically, it's about figuring out the point in any system
Okay.
where even the smallest input will create the biggest change.
So it's like finding the leverage point, the place where a little effort can have a huge impact.
Exactly. And this principle can be applied to all areas of life, from personal relationships to business ventures to global issues.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this could be useful.
Yeah.
But how can we use this critical point analysis to make better decisions and align ourselves with those high energy attractors?
It all starts with awareness.
Okay.
By paying attention to our thoughts, feelings, and actions,
Right.
we can start to see the patterns that are creating our reality.
Right.
Are we constantly attracting drama and conflict into our lives?
Hmm.
Are we struggling to reach our goals?
Yes.
Are we feeling drained and uninspired? Those are all signs that we might be stuck in a low energy attractor pattern.
So how do we break free from those patterns?
Hawkins emphasizes the importance of motive. He says that real power, the kind that supports life, comes from meaning and principle.
So it's about aligning our actions with our values, doing things for the right reasons.
Exactly. And this requires us to really look at our beliefs and attitudes.
Okay.
Are we operating from a place of fear, scarcity, and self-interest? Or are we guided by love, compassion, and a desire to contribute to the well-being of others?
So it's about asking ourselves, what am I aligning myself with?
Yeah.
What kind of energy am I putting out into the world?
Yes. And Power versus Force provides this amazing framework for understanding the different energy levels that are shaping our experiences.
So once we understand these energy dynamics, we can start making choices that empower us and create a more positive reality for ourselves and those around us.
Exactly. And remember, this isn't about becoming some kind of superhuman or achieving some impossible state of perfection. It's about making those small conscious choices every day that move us towards greater awareness, love, and power.
It's about becoming the best versions of ourselves.
Yeah.
Which I think is something we all strive for.
Absolutely.
Before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I want to make sure everyone knows that this is just a glimpse into the incredible information contained in Power versus Force.
Absolutely. There's so much more to explore in this book.
Yeah.
From fascinating research on kinesiology and calibrating consciousness to profound insights into the nature of reality and our place in the universe.
And if you're eager to learn more, I highly recommend checking out the book for yourself. It's a powerful read that can really change how you understand yourself and the world around you.
I agree.
And who knows, it might even inspire you to become an ultimate master of your own life.
Yeah.
Now, before we move on to the next part of our deep dive, I want to remind you all to share this episode with your friends and family.
Yeah, please do.
This information is truly life-changing, and the more people we can reach, the better.
I agree.
We'll be right back with part 2 after a quick break.
You know, it's fascinating to consider how these different energy levels have played out throughout history.
Oh, yeah.
Hawkins didn't just study individuals. He actually applied his research to look at the energy fields of entire cultures and historical periods.
Okay, history buffs, this is where it gets really interesting. So you're telling me we can actually measure the energy of, like, ancient Rome or the Renaissance?
Well, not in a literal sense,
Right.
but by analyzing the prevailing beliefs, attitudes, and actions of a society or a historical era, Hawkins was able to assign a calibration level to it. It's like taking the collective pulse of a civilization and seeing where it falls on the map of consciousness.
That's pretty mind-blowing.
Yeah.
So, like, where would ancient Rome fall on this scale? With all its gladiators and conquests, would it be considered high energy or low energy?
Well, based on Hawkins' research, societies that rely heavily on force and domination tend to calibrate at lower levels of consciousness.
Okay.
Ancient Rome, with its emphasis on military might and expansionism, would likely fall into that category.
So it's not necessarily about how technologically advanced a society is or how much power it has on the world stage.
Exactly.
It's more about the underlying motives and principles that drive its actions.
Exactly. A society can be incredibly sophisticated and innovative. But if its actions are fueled by fear, greed, and a lust for power, it's going to create a negative and ultimately unsustainable reality.
I see. So what about societies that are known for their peacefulness and compassion? Like, where would a society like ancient India, with its focus on spirituality and nonviolence, calibrate on the map of consciousness?
Cultures that prioritize spiritual growth, inner peace.
Okay.
And the well-being of all beings tend to calibrate at much higher energy levels. Ancient India,
Right.
with its rich philosophical and spiritual traditions, would likely fall into that category.
So it really comes down to the values that society embraces, the
Yeah.
stories it tells itself, and the principles it lives by.
Exactly. And this is where things get really interesting,
Oh, right.
especially for you young people who are thinking about the kind of world you want to create.
Right.
Because the choices we make, both individually and collectively, actually contribute to the overall energy field of humanity.
Hold on. Are you saying we have the power to change the collective consciousness of humanity? That's a pretty big responsibility.
It is a big responsibility, but it's also incredibly empowering. If enough of us make the conscious choice to align ourselves with higher energy levels,
Yep.
to embrace love, compassion, and wisdom as our guiding principles,
Yeah.
we can create a ripple effect that can transform the world.
That's an amazing thought.
Yeah,
But let's be realistic for a second.
sure.
There's a lot of negativity in the world right now. Wars, poverty, climate change.
Right.
It can feel pretty overwhelming.
I understand.
How can we possibly make a difference when faced with such huge challenges?
Well, remember what we discussed earlier about the power of those higher energy levels.
Yes.
Hawkins found that one person operating at a very high level of consciousness can actually counterbalance the negativity of millions operating at lower levels.
Wow.
It's a logarithmic scale.
Okay.
So the impact of those higher energies is magnified exponentially.
So you're saying that even small acts of kindness, compassion, and courage can have a significant impact on the world. That's really encouraging.
Absolutely. Think of it like this. If you drop a single pebble into a still pond, it creates ripples that spread out in all directions,
Right.
eventually reaching the very edges.
And those ripples can have a cascading effect, influencing the energy of everything they touch.
Exactly. And even though we might not see the immediate results of our actions,
Okay.
we can trust that they are contributing to a larger shift in consciousness. It's about having faith in the power of goodness to create positive change.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
It's a good reminder that we're all connected.
Right.
And that our actions have an impact no matter how small they might seem.
Exactly.
And speaking of action,
Yes.
what are some concrete things young people can do
Sure.
to make a difference in the world, to align themselves with those higher energy levels
Right.
and to contribute to a more positive future?
Well, it all starts with self-awareness. Like we've been saying, the first step is to become aware of our own thoughts, feelings, and actions, to see the patterns that are creating our reality.
Right.
Then we can make conscious choices
Right.
to shift those patterns. For example, if you notice that you're constantly complaining or gossiping, try to catch yourself
Yeah.
and make a conscious effort to focus on more positive and uplifting thoughts.
So it's about retraining our minds to focus on the good.
Yes, it takes practice,
Right.
but it's definitely possible.
Okay.
And another powerful way to raise our energy levels is to engage in acts of service.
So volunteering, helping others, giving back to the community.
Exactly.
These are all ways to align ourselves with those higher energies.
Absolutely. When we focus on helping others, we shift our energy away from self-interest and tap into a more expansive and compassionate energy field. It's about recognizing that we're all connected and that we're part of something much bigger than ourselves.
It's about moving beyond that me mentality and embracing a we mentality.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And this brings us to another important point. Hawkins emphasizes the power of forgiveness.
Okay.
He says that holding on to anger and resentment keeps us trapped in those lower energy levels
Yeah.
and blocks the flow of love and compassion.
So forgiveness isn't just about letting the other person off the hook.
Right.
It's about freeing ourselves from the negativity that's weighing us down.
Exactly. It's about choosing to see the situation
Right.
and the person involved
Right.
from a higher perspective with more understanding and compassion.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing that we all make mistakes,
Yeah.
that we're all on this journey of learning and growing.
That includes forgiving ourselves for our past mistakes.
Right, absolutely. It's so important to release any guilt or shame that we might be carrying around.
Right.
Holding on to those negative emotions is like carrying a heavy backpack.
Mhm.
It slows us down and keeps us from moving forward.
So forgiveness is like lightening our load and freeing up energy to move forward in a more positive direction.
Yes. And that leads us to another practice that can help us align with those higher energy levels. Gratitude.
Okay.
Taking time each day to appreciate the good things in our lives,
Right.
no matter how small, can really shift our energy and attract more positivity into our experience.
It's about focusing on what we have
Hmm.
rather than dwelling on what we lack,
Exactly.
which is so easy to do, especially in today's world.
It is easy to get caught up in comparisons and feel like we're not enough. But gratitude is a powerful antidote to that scarcity mindset.
Yeah.
It helps us shift into a more abundant and joyful way of being.
I love that.
Yeah.
So in addition to gratitude,
Yeah.
what are some other practices that can help us raise our energy levels and align ourselves with higher levels of consciousness?
Well, Hawkins talks a lot about the importance of aligning with truth.
Mm.
He suggests that truth has a higher energy than falsehood,
Oh.
and that by seeking truth in all areas of our lives,
Right.
we can raise our vibration.
So it's about being honest with ourselves and others,
Yes.
seeking knowledge and understanding, and living in accordance with our values.
Exactly. It also means being willing to challenge our own beliefs and assumptions,
Right.
to be open to new perspectives, and to let go of any limiting beliefs that might be holding us back.
That's so true.
Yeah.
Sometimes our own minds can be our biggest obstacles.
Right.
We get stuck in old patterns of thinking and behaving,
Yeah.
even when they're no longer serving us.
You're right. And Power versus Force encourages us to become more conscious of those thoughts and beliefs, to question the stories we tell ourselves,
Yeah.
and to choose to align ourselves with a more empowering and life-affirming worldview.
So it's about becoming the authors of our own stories,
Yes.
rather than passively accepting the narratives that society or our families might have imposed on us.
That's a great way to put it. It's a journey of self-discovery and empowerment. It's about recognizing our own inner strength,
Okay.
our own innate wisdom, and our own capacity to create a better reality for ourselves and the world around us.
And it all starts with that first step,
Exactly.
that decision to choose love over fear,
Yeah.
courage over apathy,
Yeah.
and power over force.
Exactly. And as we continue to make those choices
Right.
to align ourselves with those higher energy levels, we create a ripple effect that can transform not only our own lives, but also the lives of those around us. We become beacons of light, shining our own unique brilliance into the world
Yeah.
and inspiring others to do the same.
I love that image of becoming a beacon of light. It's so powerful.
It is.
And it speaks to the heart of what Power versus Force is all about.
Yes.
Hope, empowerment, and transformation.
It's a reminder that we are not victims of our circumstances, but rather creators of our own destiny. And that's a powerful message to carry with us,
Right.
especially as we navigate the challenges and opportunities of the 21st century.
Because the world needs more people who are awake, aware, and aligned with those higher levels of consciousness.
Absolutely. People who are willing to stand up for what they believe in, to speak their truth, and to make a difference in the world.
People who are committed to creating a more peaceful, just, and sustainable future for everyone.
And that's the legacy we can all strive to leave behind. A legacy of love, wisdom, and power.
A legacy that will inspire generations to come. Now, before we wrap up our deep dive into Power versus Force, we want to take a moment to remind you to share this episode with anyone you think might benefit from this knowledge. It's truly life-changing stuff.
And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss our future deep dives. We have so many more fascinating topics to explore together.
Right. Now, as we wrap up our exploration of Power versus Force, I want to touch on some of the more nuanced concepts in the book. The ideas that might spark some debate or even challenge some common beliefs.
I think that's a great idea. Hawkins definitely presents some thought-provoking concepts that can really push us to expand our understanding of ourselves and the world.
Exactly. So are you ready to dive into some of those potentially controversial ideas?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
Okay, so one of the things that really stood out to me was Hawkins' assertion that there are no accidents in life. He suggests that everything that happens, every event, every encounter, ultimately reflects our own level of consciousness and the attractor patterns we're aligned with.
That's definitely one of the ideas that can really make people stop and think. It challenges that common perception that life is just a series of random events that happen to us.
I know, right? At first I was like, wait, so if I trip and fall, it's not because I wasn't paying attention or the sidewalk was uneven, it's because of my consciousness.
Well, of course, there are always physical factors involved.
Right.
But Hawkins suggests that there's also this underlying energetic component, a kind of synchronicity that orchestrates events in a way that mirrors our inner state.
So even seemingly random events have a deeper meaning, a purpose. That's a pretty big shift in perspective.
It is. And it might not resonate with everyone, but I think it's a powerful idea to consider. Because if we can start to see the world through that lens,
Okay.
it can change how we approach challenges and setbacks.
Instead of feeling like victims of circumstance, we can look for the lessons and opportunities that might be hidden within those experiences.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that even in those difficult moments,
Yeah.
there's something valuable to be learned, something that can help us grow and evolve.
So it's about taking responsibility for our reality, even when it feels like things are happening to us.
Yes. And that shift in perspective can be incredibly empowering.
Hmm.
It allows us to move from a place of powerlessness to a place of agency.
It's about realizing that we're not just passengers on this journey called life.
Right.
We're the drivers.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Now, another challenging concept in the book is the idea that we create our own reality.
Okay, wait a minute. Does that mean we can just magically manifest anything we want just by thinking about it?
Not quite. It's not as simple as snapping our fingers and having our desires materialize out of thin air.
Okay.
There are still laws of nature, societal structures,
Right.
and countless other factors that influence our experience.
So it's not like The Secret where we just have to visualize what we want
Right.
and it will magically appear.
Hawkins is definitely more nuanced than that. He emphasizes that our thoughts and beliefs create the filter through which we perceive and experience the world. If we're operating from a place of fear and scarcity, we're more likely to attract experiences that reflect those beliefs. But if we can shift our mindset to a place of abundance and possibility, we open ourselves up to a wider range of experiences.
So it's about recognizing that our thoughts have power,
Yes.
that they can actually shape our reality.
Exactly. And it's about taking responsibility for the stories we tell ourselves, the beliefs we hold, and the energy we project out into the world.
It's about becoming conscious creators of our own lives.
Yes.
Rather than just passively reacting to whatever comes our way.
Yes. And that's where the real power lies. It lies in that space between stimulus and response in that moment of choice,
Right.
where we decide how we're going to react, how we're going to interpret the situation, what kind of energy we're going to bring to it.
It's that moment of choice where
Yeah.
we decide whether to react with fear or love, whether to see the world as a hostile place or a field of infinite possibilities.
Exactly. And those choices, those seemingly small decisions we make each and every day,
Right.
they're the ones that ultimately determine the course of our lives and the reality we create for ourselves.
So it's about understanding that we're not just living our lives.
Right.
We're actively creating them moment by moment.
And that's a powerful realization. It can be incredibly liberating,
Yeah.
but it can also feel a bit daunting at times.
I can see that because it means that we're responsible for everything we experience, both the good and the bad.
That's true. But even though it might feel overwhelming at times,
Yeah.
it's ultimately incredibly empowering because it means we have the power to change our reality, to shift our experience,
Yep.
and to create a life that is more fulfilling and meaningful.
So it's not about blaming ourselves for everything that goes wrong.
Right.
It's about recognizing that we have the power to choose a different path, to create a different outcome.
Exactly. It's about shifting from a victim mentality to a creator mentality. And that's what makes Power versus Force such a compelling and inspiring book. It's not just a theoretical exploration of consciousness.
Right.
It's a practical guide to living a more empowered and fulfilling life.
It's a reminder that we all have the potential to become masters of our own lives.
And that's a journey worth taking.
So to all our listeners out there, we encourage you to check out Power versus Force for yourself.
Yes.
Explore its concepts, challenge its ideas, and see how its wisdom can apply to your own life.
And remember, the journey of self-discovery and personal growth is a lifelong adventure. It's about continuously learning, evolving, and striving to become the best version of ourselves.
It's about making a positive impact on the world around us.
And it all starts with a single step. So take that step today. Choose love over fear. Choose courage over apathy. Choose power over force.
And as you continue on this journey, remember that the most powerful transformational force of all is simple kindness to oneself and all that lives.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into Power versus Force. We hope you found it informative, inspiring, and empowering.
Be sure to check back daily for new episodes where we explore a wide range of topics to support you on your path to becoming ultimate masters of your own lives.
And if you're looking for more personalized guidance and support, be sure to visit our website at www.ultimatemasters.org/coaching or send us a message on WhatsApp at +256 771 324 119.
We offer personalized coaching programs to help you apply these principles to your life and reach your full potential.
So go out there and make a difference. The world is waiting for you.
And remember, you have the power to create the life you desire and to make the world a better place.
Until next time, keep striving to become the ultimate master of your own destiny.